Ever wondered how a whole country can go broke? It's not like a person maxing out their credit cards, but the consequences can be way more devastating. We're talking about debt traps, a situation where a nation gets so buried in debt it can barely function, losing control over its own destiny. This isn't just about numbers on a spreadsheet, it's about the lives of millions. So, how does this happen? And more importantly, can it be avoided? Let's dive in. Imagine a country, let's call it Atlantica. It has big dreams, new hospitals, shiny new roads and better schools. But these dreams cost money, and Atlantica's government doesn't have enough saved up. So it does what many of us do when we need cash. It borrows. It can borrow from other countries, from big international banks like the IMF or World Bank, or even from private investors by selling bonds. At first everything seems great. The borrowed money fuels a boom. Construction jobs are everywhere. The economy is growing and citizens are happy. The government of Atlantica feels like it's on top of the world. It's delivering on its promises and the future looks bright. To keep the good times rolling, it borrows a little more and then a little more. The debt pile grows, but hey, as long as the economy is growing faster, what's the worry, right? This is where the first crack appears. What happens if the global economy takes a downturn? Suddenly the products Atlantica sells to the world are worth less. Its income drops. Or maybe a natural disaster strikes, a massive hurricane or an earthquake, forcing the government to spend billions on recovery. Or perhaps a new government comes in and spends recklessly on popular but unproductive projects to win votes. All of these scenarios have one thing in common. They hit the country's finances hard. Now that growing debt pile doesn't look so manageable. The interest payments, which seemed small before, are now a huge chunk of the national budget. The money that was supposed to go to new hospitals and schools is now being rerouted just to pay the interest on old loans. This is the beginning of the debt trap. The real trouble starts when lenders get nervous. They look at Atlantica's situation and think, this is getting risky. To protect themselves, they start demanding higher interest rates on any new loans. This is like your credit card company jacking up your APR because you missed a payment. It makes it even harder to get out of debt. Atlantica is now in a vicious cycle. It needs to borrow more money just to pay off the interest on the money it already owes. This is where things can get political. The international lenders, like the IMF, might agree to a bailout loan, but it always comes with strings attached. These are called structural adjustment programs or austerity measures. They'll tell Atlantica, we'll give you the money, but you have to tighten your belt, cut government spending, privatize state-owned companies like your water or electricity provider, and raise taxes. From the lender's perspective, this makes sense. They want to ensure they get their money back. They believe these policies will make Atlantica's economy more efficient and fiscally responsible in the long run. But for the average citizen in Atlantica, these measures can be brutal. Cutting government spending might mean firing teachers and nurses, slashing pensions, and stopping fuel subsidies. Suddenly, the cost of living skyrockets. Privatizing state assets can lead to higher prices for essential services, as private companies prioritize profit over public good. Raising taxes takes even more money out of people's pockets. The result? Public anger, protests, and political instability. The government of Atlantica is now caught between a rock and a hard place. If they refuse the terms, they won't get the bailout, default on their debt, and get locked out of international financial markets for years. This would cause an even more catastrophic economic collapse. But if they accept the terms, they inflict pain on their own people and effectively hand over control of their economic policy to foreign institutions. They lose their fiscal sovereignty. Major decisions about their country's budget are no longer being made in their own capital, but in Washington or Brussels. We've seen this story play out in real life time and time again. Think of Greece during the Eurozone crisis in the early 2010s. After years of government overspending and the 2008 global financial crisis, Greece found itself with an unmanageable debt load. The Troika, the European Commission, the European Central Bank, and the IMF stepped in with massive bailout packages. But these came with severe austerity conditions. Pensions were slashed, taxes were hiked, and tens of thousands of public sector jobs were cut. The Greek economy was plunged into a deep depression, with unemployment soaring past 25%. The social fabric was torn apart, with widespread protests and a sense of national humiliation. Greece lost a decade of economic progress and a significant degree of its ability to make its own economic decisions. Or look at many developing nations in Africa and Latin America during the 1980s and 90s. After taking on large loans in the 70s, a combination of rising interest rates and falling commodity prices pushed them into a debt crisis. The resulting IMF and World Bank mandated austerity programs are still a source of deep resentment across the developing world, blamed for decades of underinvestment in public health and education. So, is borrowing always bad? Of course not. Debt, when used wisely, can be a powerful tool for development. If Atlantica had borrowed money to build a new port that dramatically increased its export capacity, or invested in a top-tier university that produced a generation of skilled innovators, the debt could have easily paid for itself and then some. This is productive debt. It generates future income that more than covers the cost of borrowing. The key is responsible management. Countries need to have a clear plan for how borrowed money will generate future growth. They need transparent and accountable institutions to prevent corruption and wasteful spending. They need to build a diverse and resilient economy that isn't overly dependent on a single commodity or a single trading partner. And they need to be cautious, building up financial reserves during good times to cushion the blow when bad times inevitably arrive. The international community also has a role to play. Lenders, whether they are countries or institutions, need to practice responsible lending. Pushing unsustainable loans onto vulnerable countries is not just unethical, it's also bad business in the long run, as it leads to defaults and instability. There's a growing call for more transparent lending practices and for debt relief mechanisms that don't just punish the citizens of the indebted country. For example, when a country is genuinely unable to pay, mechanisms for debt restructuring or even outright forgiveness might be a more humane and economically sensible solution than forcing it deeper into a poverty trap. This isn't about giving a free pass, but about finding a sustainable path forward that allows a country to get back on its feet. The story of the debt trap is a cautionary tale about the delicate balance between ambition and responsibility. It shows how easily a country's dreams of a brighter future can turn into a nightmare of foreign control and domestic hardship. Losing fiscal independence means a country can't decide its own priorities. It can't protect its most vulnerable citizens. It's a loss of self-determination. Understanding these dynamics is crucial for all of us as global citizens. The economic health of one nation can have ripple effects across the entire world. By promoting responsible borrowing, responsible lending, and creating a fairer international financial system, we can help ensure that countries can pursue their development goals without falling into the trap of losing their sovereignty. What do you think? Is austerity a necessary evil or a counterproductive punishment? What's the biggest factor that pushes countries into debt? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found this exploration of global economics interesting, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more deep dives. Thanks for watching.